On October 7, 2023, the ruling government of Gaza, Hamas, carried out a horrific attack just across the border in Israel, called Operation Al-Aqsa Storm. The Israeli government said that about 1,200 people were killed in that attack, most of them civilians, and that Hamas kidnapped hundreds of others, including women and children, and returned them to Gaza as hostages. In response, Israel has bombed and invaded Gaza, killing more than 33,000 and leaving many injured and displaced. Since that day, we have heard questions about Hamas from many of you. Who are they? What do they want? And how did we get here? Hamas, or Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyah, Islamic Resistance Movement, was founded in 1987 during the first Palestinian Intifada by Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. This group is one of two main political parties in the Palestinian territories. The two main Palestinian movements are Fatah, which has a secular approach, and Hamas, which has made Islamism its profession. Its roots are in the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and it is supported by a robust socio-political structure within the Palestinian territories. In 1988, Hamas published its charter calling for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of an Islamic society in historic Palestine. The al-Qassam Brigade's Hamas military wing has conducted numerous anti-Israel attacks in both Israel and the Palestinian territories since the 1990s. For the first time, it employed suicide bombing in April 1993, 5 months before the signing of the Oslo Accords, which established limited self-government for parts of the West Bank and Gaza, under a newly created entity called the Palestinian Authority.
We bid them shalom, salam, peace.
Hamas condemned the accords and the recognition of each other by the PLO and Israel. In 1997, the United States designated Hamas a foreign terrorist organization. Hamas has been the de facto governing body in the Gaza Strip since 2007, when it ousted the Palestinian Authority from power. In 2017, Hamas presented a new document that accepted an interim Palestinian state along the Green Line border, established before the Six-Day War, but still refused to recognize Israel. Despite the complexity of Hamas's leadership structure, during Israel's ongoing war in the Gaza Strip, a closer examination shows who is in charge of what. The political wing, or the political bureau, and the military wing, Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, make up the two halves of the Hamas organizational structure. The political and military wings are under the supervision of the Shura Council. Israel would have a difficult time completely extinguishing Hamas because two of its most important leaders are in the Gulf Emirate of Qatar rather than Gaza.
Leader Ismail Haniyeh has accused Israel of deliberate.
The most important Hamas figure is Ismail Haniyeh. He was born in a Gaza refugee camp in 1962 and attended a United Nations school before studying at the Islamic University of Gaza. Haniyeh was imprisoned by Israel in 1989 for 3 years during the first Palestinian uprising. He was exiled to a no-man's land between Israel and Lebanon in 1992, but returned to Gaza in 1997 and became the personal secretary of Hamas founder Ahmed Yassin. Haniyeh was appointed Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority by President Mahmoud Abbas in 2006, but he was dismissed a year later after Hamas ousted Abbas's Fatah party from the Gaza Strip. Haniyeh rejected his sacking as unconstitutional and refused to step down. From that day, Hamas continued to rule the Gaza Strip, while Fatah remained responsible for the occupied West Bank. In 2017, he was elected head of Hamas's political bureau, succeeding Khaled Meshaal. Haniyeh moved to Qatar from Gaza around 2016. He currently maintains an office in Doha. In 2018, the US Department of State designated Haniyeh a terrorist. Khaled Meshaal, the second most important Hamas figure, born in the West Bank in 1956, is known as a founding member of the organization's political bureau. He was a vocal opponent of Israel's peace process and was later exiled to Qatar. Meshaal was a key figure in the militant group for decades and is considered a leader of its more radical bloc. In 1997, Israeli intelligence agency Mossad attempted to assassinate Meshaal while he was living in Jordan. Meshaal survived the operation, which provoked a diplomatic crisis between Israel and Jordan. In 1999, Meshaal was expelled from Jordan and sought refuge in Syria. In 2004, he was propelled to the head of the group after Sheikh Yassin and his successor Abdel Aziz al-Rantisi were killed by Israeli authorities. In 2012, Meshaal left Syria in protest against President Bashar al-Assad's repression and headed to Qatar. Meshaal made his first visit to Gaza in 45 years in December 2012 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Hamas, reaffirming his refusal to recognize the Jewish state and declaring Palestine as their land and nation. As mentioned earlier, in 2017, Ismail Haniyeh was elected head of Hamas's political bureau, succeeding Khaled Meshaal.
يوم الثورة الكبرى من أجل إنهاء الاحتلال الأخير ونظام الفصل العنصري الأخير.
Mohammed Deif, the leader of the al-Qassam brigades, is believed to be the mastermind behind the recent attacks on Israel. He is secretive and only does audio recordings occasionally. Deif is known to Palestinians as the mastermind and to Israelis as the cat with 9 lives. He was imprisoned in 1989 and formed the al-Qassam brigades to capture Israeli soldiers. After his release, he helped engineer tunnels that allowed Hamas fighters to enter Israel from Gaza. Deif is one of Israel's most wanted men, accused of planning and supervising bus bombings in 1996 and involvement in the capture and killing of 3 Israeli soldiers in the mid-1990s. The most serious assassination attempts on his life were in 2002, where he survived, but he lost 1 eye, 1 foot, 1 hand and had trouble speaking. Israeli security forces failed to assassinate Deif during a 2014 assault on the Gaza Strip, but killed his wife and 2 of his children. The other key political Hamas figure is Yahya Sinwar. Born in 1962 in the Khan Yunis refugee camp, Sinwar is a co-founder of the al-Qassam brigades and the Majid, a Hamas security service. He's been arrested 3 times and was sentenced to 4 life terms in 1988 for terrorist activities. In 2011, he was released as part of a deal in which 1,000 Palestinian and Israeli Arab prisoners were released in exchange for the liberation of French-Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit. Sinwar returned to his position as a prominent leader in Hamas and was appointed head of the group's political bureau in the Gaza Strip in February 2017. Sinwar has been on the US blacklist of international terrorists since 2015 and is suspected by Israelis to be one of the main architects of the October 7 attacks. According to Hebrew-language media reports, he had spoken to Israeli hostages in near-accentless Hebrew in a bid to reassure them after they were being held underground inside Gaza following their October 7 abduction. Since its formation in 1987, Hamas has received significant financial and military support from Iran. By 1994, Palestinian author Ziad Abu Amr estimated Iranian assistance to Hamas tens of millions of dollars. Over time, this figure would rise steadily. In February 1999, Palestinian police discovered documents attesting to the transfer of $35 million to Hamas from the Iranian intelligence service, money reportedly meant to finance terrorist activities against Israeli targets. Iran also trained Hamas operatives to carry out attacks targeting Israel.
Events in Iraq have now reached the final days of decision.
Funding from Iran for Hamas increased around the time US-led coalition forces deposed Iraq's Saddam Hussein. Iran, in effect, is a replacement for former Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein, who subsidized families of Palestinian suicide bombers or those injured in the fighting. For a time, Hamas accepted Iranian support, but tried to guard its operational independence. The increase in Iranian funding for Hamas in May 2004 came just weeks after the assassination of Hamas leader Abdelaziz al-Rantisi, making Hamas look weak and leaving the organization with no clear leadership. In Damascus, Hamas leader Khaled Meshaal reportedly sought increased funding from Iran and a direct channel to the IRGC in an effort to contain the impact of the loss of Yassin and Rantisi and reinvigorate Hamas operational cells. Iran's provision of support to Hamas has continued to grow over time, especially after Hamas took over the Gaza Strip by force from fellow Palestinians in 2007. Iran provides Hamas with at least 70 to 100 millions of US dollars a year, according to US and Israeli officials. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh claimed that his group receives $70 million a year from Iran. In October 2023, the US Treasury Department designated Mohammed Nasrallah, a veteran Hamas operative with close ties to Iran, as a key figure in the transfer of tens of millions of dollars to Hamas, including the Qassam brigades. Iran's funding has sustained Hamas and built up its terrorist capabilities with its terrorist training programs and consistent effort to arm the group. Iran, a US-designated state sponsor of terrorism, has provided a wide range of material support to Hamas, making it the capable and deadly terrorist organization it is today.